What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast. And today I have a sparkling young man. We're already vibing. I can feel the energy. We're going to have a lot of fun today. This is Tim Thomas. Welcome, Tim.
Gary, so great to be here. I love the title of your podcast was, yeah, it says a lot. And like I said, I've got a feeling that the time we spend together is just going to go like that. So, audience members, I just invite you to sort of get on the end of your seat, take a breath, and get ready.
Right on. And we're going to set Tim loose in just a second. But I just always, what I do is I read introduction or bio, whatever's been presented to me by my guest. So I'm just going to fire this off about Tim real quick. His name is Tim Thomas. His mission is to uplift people and the world through quality sleep. He's worked over 2 years in hardcore veteran recovery space. He brings a unique lived experience in health, wellness, breath work, and mental health. Tim loves connecting with people to the transformative power of sleep and generosity. And if you haven't noticed, Tim is in Australia, which is even more epic. So we're gonna have some fun.
Yeah,
But Tim, like I said, I don't even write down questions because you're gonna just roll, and I don't even want to get in your way. But because we're the What If You Could podcast, I always ask my guests, "Hey, do you have a what if you could moment? You have a what if you could
absolutely.
thought? If you don't mind sharing that with us, that'd be epic."
All right. So everything I do has to pass a P test. Okay. I'm ex-military, three P's: powerful, positive, and permanent. And permanency is the most important thing. So if we really care about, other people, if I really care about people listening to this, then it's not just going to be a good conversation. There's going to be something they can take away, some practical thing that they can do that they can permanently integrate with. So that will happen probably towards the end. But my what if question is, what if I could, is if I could give one thing to everyone on the planet, it would be a good night's sleep.
Mm. God bless you. I mean,
I
I my wife sleeps so freaking hard that even if you put a mirror under her nose, there's no condensation. She literally dies for 8 hours. It's amazing. And then I put the pumps on her, I bring her back to life. I don't think I've slept more than 4 hours at a time in my entire life. I can't tell you what I'd give for a complete, 8 hours of sleep. I can't even
and,
tell you.
and and the thing is, Gary, that would be normal for you. That's just what happens at night. And you haven't really even looked at that part of your life because everyone's doing it. And it's almost like a badge you wear. I only had 4 hours sleep last night. What's your excuse? Give me that goddamn coffee, you know? Um, so, you know, and I came through this because, like you mentioned, I've worked for over a decade in the veteran recovery space. Um, and I just noticed these, these are just regular humans, but they were quite acute in their experience of their symptoms, right? And they'd been experiencing it for a period of time. And I noticed that if I could improve sleep, it's like everything improved. And what I just invite all the listeners to to look at is think of everything in your life right now. Your work, your play, your relationships. The quality of all those things is relative to the quality of your sleep. If you want to destroy someone, destroy their sleep. In the special forces, we used to actively target our enemy's sleep because we knew if we took them out for took sleep out for 3 nights, it would mess them up better than a bullet. You know?
Well, and you see that when you, not you, but when you see when they interrogate people what's the one thing they do? They make them sleep deprived, right?
Yep.
And then that completely weakens their resolve. They're going to tell you anything, man, because they just frickin' are exhausted.
Yeah. And I just encourage people to see that sleep is the soil from which everything in our life grows. And right now, it's not so much health and fitness, it's health and beauty. We're very visual people. So we collapsed beauty and fitness. Like if you look at things growing, you're growing a tree. People say, "Oh, look, my trunk's not in the right shape. I don't have the fruit in my life that I want to have." And so the world we live in will say, "Look, if you want to improve the appearance, here's all these things you can buy." Someone who really understands how growth happens, they'll go into the soil to where we get all our nourishment from. And improving sleep, it's sort of unspectacular, but it's super powerful because if you can be the person that gets that quality sleep and gets that nourishment, then the awesome thing is it doesn't just stop at good sleep. Good sleep accumulates benefits, just like bad sleep has an accumulation of benefits. And I'm excited, Gary, because my business partner for 38 years didn't sleep more than a couple hours. I prescribed him some breath work. I checked in a few days later. He says, "I've slept so good." And I said, "How long have you had this?" Because we'd known each other for years, but he just had it there as an assumption. Okay. So I get really excited when people say, "This has been me my whole life." But then when they get access to the resources underneath their own skin, that's when we start realizing that we all own bodies, but we don't know what exactly they can do for us. And I want people to see that it's not so much a set of lungs we have underneath our ribs, it's a medicine cabinet with a lot of different shelves. You breathe a certain way, you elicit a certain chemical response. When I'm working with high school students, I'll show them how to focus past the stress of exams and be cognizant with their, answers. If I'm working with corporates, they like an afternoon pick me up. If I'm working with people who like to sleep better, if I'm working with athletes, it's always amazing how many athletes don't know how to breathe properly. So, but I mean, I've looked at all of this and I said, what if I could do this one thing? I see the best thing I could do for anybody is give them quality sleep because I can't do what you do, Gary. But if I can improve your sleep, you're going to do what you do better.
Yeah.
And conversely, if I was really interested in damaging you, I would make sure you didn't sleep. So my thing is, if you care about somebody, you care about how they sleep.
Yeah. It's interesting. I literally just finished a book um, called Breath by James Nestor. And I'm now on his first book about diving, where he got with these, the divers that go 300, 400, 500 feet underwater. It's freaking insane, right? They hold their breath for 8 minutes. It's insane. But the book on breath was really fascinating. You mentioned sleep, but also you mentioned breath and the breath work. And what they did into James Nestor and what he put himself through in order to follow up on how important the breathing is to us. But before we go there, just real quick, I want to step back a little bit. So you didn't just wake up one day and go, dude, I'm going to become like the breathwork guy. I'm going to help everyone sleep, right? Where did this come from when your time in special ops? Did this come from early on, or
Yeah,
where
look,
did this passion come from?
there is nothing mystical about my journey into breath work. Um, they train us to endure fatigue, but in Afghanistan 2009, fatigue went to a whole new level, right? Um, and I I wasn't just fatigued, I'd lost mates, had legs blown off others, and I had this sense that I was going to die. And we're all turning on each other, arguing with the team. And I just had an argument with my corporal, and I didn't ask this in the pre-interview. Amble, how are we with language on here, Gary?
You can fucking say anything you want.
Got it. Got it. All right. I'll keep it authentic. I don't always swear, but if it comes out, I don't, I just tailor it to match. So anyway,
You're
I had
good.
this argument, what's that, kombucha or tea?
No, it's not kombucha or whiskey. It is green tea.
Yeah,
I drink it
tea.
by the
Nice.
gallon. Yeah, maybe that's why I can't sleep. I don't know.
Well, no, yeah, we'll go into that another way. But the origin story of, if for those listening, Gary just took a glass of something that looked like kombucha, so I just quizzed him on it. I am currently drinking cacao, Peruvian cacao. I make that
What is the cow?
cacao.
What is it?
It's where chocolate comes from. These they, plants, but it's nothing like chocolate in the way that cacao is the pure source of it, and it's a vasodilator, so it makes you feel nice and warm inside. But there's a bunch of good chemicals in here that crosses the blood-brain barrier, makes you super social. So after I do my breath work and ice bath sessions, I'll give them a glass of cacao afterwards, so then they can, open up, warm up, and everyone just it kind of makes you feel like you want to dance, even though there's no music, you know.
I
So
love it.
that's
I'm going to look into that because I love
yeah.
to pour great stuff down my gullet. So I'm going to look for that.
Well, cacao,
Definitely.
but the research just out shows that it actually helps your body increase stem cell production. Yeah, so
Wow.
food be your medicine, medicine be your food.
Yep. Yeah.
And layering in that is a super easy thing to do.
I'm going to
Um,
do it. But I cut you off. I'm so sorry.
no,
You
no,
were
no, no, it's fine.
explaining
There's
my,
nothing wrong here. We're all
yeah,
about adding
you
value
were
to
just
people,
going
and
to get into the,
if
yeah.
people start drinking more cacao, that's value added. Um,
I love it. We're going to squirrel all over. So, but we'll bring it back. We always bring
you
it
got it.
back.
You got it. Yeah.
So you got in an argument.
Yeah, got an argument,
You guys were
and
getting your ass kicked and you were
yeah,
exhausted.
and my boss said, "Fuck off and go to the gun turret." And I'm just staring out into the dirt, pointless job, and had this sense I was going to die. I was beyond fatigue, and it's like, what's the point, Tim? It's like you got 2 cents worth of energy and you're going to die. What's the freaking point? Why are you here? Um, and after about 5 minutes of my bottom lip being fully into the dirt, um, I said, Tim, if you've only got, there was a voice that said, Tim, if you've only got 2 cents worth of energy, you better start investing that wisely. So we never got anything that would be considered proper sleep when we're outside the wire. When I say, outside the safe base, but when you did get a chance to lay down, often you woke up feeling worse than when you went to sleep. And so one thing they teach us, and they don't teach us breath work, but a lot of disciplines integrate breathing to enhance their own discipline because they've figured out the effect that breath has on their body. So when they teach you how to shoot in the army, is they get you to take a sight picture, line up the sight on the gun, and then take a deep breath in, let it out slow, and then squeeze the trigger. Okay. And that breath work brings that sort of focus and centering. Now, obviously, I'm right handed, so I used my right hand for whenever I squeezed the trigger, but I focused when I was going to sleep. I thought, with this 2 cents worth of energy, I'm going to breathe into my left hand. And I pictured breathing into my left thumb, breathing light into my left thumb, breathing relaxation, and then into my pointer finger, my index finger, my ring finger, a breath at a time through my whole arm. And then all of a sudden, I could just breathe this light and energy through everything. And I would go with whatever sleep that I had, I'd wake up feeling so much more relaxed. So instead of just 2 cents worth of energy, I had 8 cents. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And what I encourage people to see energy as is energy's like money. How you invest it's how you get it back. Okay. And inside of you, you've got a unique do that might cost you, say, $10 worth of energy, but you'll get $1,000 back. Okay. And that's unique to you. Some people breathe, some people run, some people lift, some people do boxing, whatever that is. Observe the energy investments and returns. That's to me a map to your destiny. The things that light you up and make you feel awesome. And on this occasion, when I was completely stuffed and I couldn't go on and I couldn't work any harder, I thought, well, I've just got to work on the quality of my sleep. And the funny thing is, I discovered later on that there are certain things in our life that are universal levers, in the way that if you do that one thing, everything in your life improves. Conversely, if you do that one thing poorly, everything in your life suffers. And so what I discovered was that improving sleep quality was starting to improve everything in my life. So I was waking up with more energy, more energy, more energy. And then I started having an abundance so I could invest in my physical body. So I woke up, and it's not like I didn't have a busy day, but I did some push-ups, lift some ammo tins. And then I got to the point where I'm starting to feel a little more sovereign with my own energy. But then I realized I'm in a team. And if my team's having a bad day, I'm having a bad day. Okay. And
Mhm.
so there I was thinking, well, I can't just be good enough for me. I've got to pour into others as well. And there is the pathway of energy. Energy connects you to what you feel you need to do next, and then the next, but then it gets you to a point where it starts connecting outside of your own skin. So it's one thing to be powerful inside your own skin, it's another thing to be powerful outside of your own skin. Some people say, I can do great stuff, but without love, I am nothing. So, love, care, empathy for your fellow human is that space that you can empathetically reach others and impact on their lives positively and powerfully. Um, and so, I didn't know that breathing was a thing, and I hadn't got breath work to a point where I could share it with others. I was just discovering something that worked. But what I had at the time was coffee, a lot of coffee. And I thought, well, I could make other guys coffee. But that's when it gets complicated because in the special forces, there's a very special dynamic. Okay, they're all incredibly alpha dudes, and I knew that if you did an act of service for an insecure alpha, then they treat you like you're below them. Okay, because I knew if I brought guys coffee and they didn't do something to earn it, they're like, well, that guy's below me. I somehow deserve that and I'm so much better than you. And they'd call me the brew bitch. Okay. And I'm like, and that was a thing for me, right? I'm like, there is no, I've worked too hard to be here. There's no way if someone calls me the brew bitch, they're getting politely knocked the fuck out. You know,
I'm
that was,
nobody's brew bitch, all right? I
yeah,
am nobody's brew bitch.
that's what my ego was telling me, you know, and that was a thing, but that was I've heard two audible whispers in my life, Gary, and this it could have been the fatigue, it could have been me going half crazy, but I heard this whisper in Afghanistan, and this is when I was stuck. This is when I was literally saying "fuck you all," right? Because I'm no man's brew bitch, but I heard this goddamn whisper say, "Take the ego out of it." And if you didn't hear what I said, it's take the ego out of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit. And I I I tried doing it because I thought it was the right thing to do, and that didn't work. It still gave me aggravation. But then I had to ask the question, I need to see the self-benefit here. Who did I want around me when good times turn bad? Do I want fatigued, disconnected people, or do I want rested and connected people? That makes a lot of sense for you, Tim. When their survivability goes up, yours does too. And that's when I felt my ego drop. And I termed it the ego bridge. The second you drop your ego, the second you don't give a shit about what other people say, you're connected to an intention, it becomes a bridge to anywhere you want to get to. And it was like incredibly freeing moment, and what the hell were we over there for if not fighting for freedom? And I was like a slave to my own ego. But as soon as I dropped my ego, it became a bridge to anywhere I wanted to get to. So I became the brew bitch, right?
You are, by the way, you are a sexy brew bitch. So it's
Oh, you.
so hey man, it looks good on you, bro.
And so what ended up happening is I discovered the power of servanthood, not servitude, but servanthood. I'd
Wait,
gotten
wait,
those
wait,
two
wait.
mixed up.
Did you say serve in truth?
No, servanthood. So
Oh,
servanthood. Yeah.
okay.
But
Yeah.
that's not a bad saying. I love your Freudian slip there. Serve in truth. Because in the truth of the matter, I hadn't been serving in truth up until that point. I'd been serving in, well, it's the right thing to do, and I expect a return. Okay. Um, I was giving of myself. I wasn't giving of my abundance. Because if I'm just adequate, if I'm just at 100% and I give 10% away, I notice inside myself, I'm like, I've just given you 10% and I'm down to 90%. You better do something with that. And I have an expectation. But if I create an abundance inside of myself, if I create 500%, I can give 20% away a day, and people can love it, hate it, tell me to F off. It doesn't matter because I'm in touch with something so much more powerful.
I
And
wanted
that's,
to touch on that because I work with a lot of healers, uh, breath workers, psychics, all this stuff, and you're bringing up something that, especially in where you were. First of all, special ops. I mean, you got to have a shitload of ego, for a lot of these guys to get there, to make it there, to put themselves through that. But when you're giving so much, like you started with, I built this energy. I put it through my thumb, like my next finger. I'm creating this energy inside me. Now I'm gonna build enough so that I can give it away to my mates, and they've got my back even stronger. We're a tighter unit. But at some point, do you find that just draining? I mean,
yeah,
either
yeah.
they're not accepting it, or you. At what
Yep.
point does that drain you from your own energy?
Yeah, no, no, great point. And this is what happens. And in fact, some of the nastiest people end up start off as the nicest and most generous because people take, and there's not, and when it comes to human investment, there's not a lot of return, you know. Um, and in fact, if you truly help somebody, if you truly connect something to someone to something powerful, it's like all of a sudden they're in this new world. They were never in the old world. They never needed help. And I don't even need to thank you because I've always been like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I've only ever probably had 2 to 3% of people actually have the awareness to go, you know what? I see what you did. I really appreciate that. Awesome, right? So and I want to speak to that because that's super powerful. Um, I had this goal of saving 40 veteran lives from suicide, right?
Yeah.
Because we'd lost that many to bombs and bullets in Afghanistan within Australia, but we'd lost probably 30 or 40 times that amount to suicide. So I had this goal when I got out of the service. I got through my own PTSD and I wanted to start helping others. But the problem I had was, and what nobody, and here's the thing, I achieved that within 12 months. 40 guys saved from suicide within 12 months. And I explained the two things I did to achieve that no one else saw in that current time. I'll remind me to come back to that. But to answer your question about giving of yourself and not giving of your abundance, what nobody knew, I was doing this incredible work within the veteran space, work that no one else could do or had done up until that point with the velocity I was doing it with. But what nobody knew was every 6 or 7 weeks, I would have to hit the bottle really hard for 3 days because I was giving of myself. I wasn't giving of my abundance and
Wow.
helping others.
Would you please repeat that? Because that's fucking
Sure.
powerful right there.
Yeah. So the mistake I made was even though I was doing great work and getting a lot of affirmations, and it's quite an opiate to help others. In fact, I was using helping others as my own opiate. It was like taking pain relief for a broken leg.
Mhm.
Okay. But in that process, I was giving of myself, I wasn't giving of my abundance.
Yeah. That's massive. Yeah, that's a massive thought right there.
And so these days, my saying is, I don't give of myself anymore. I give of my abundance.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Do you, and then did so this all this realization came while you were in this, I don't mean to, I'm not saying to pick on anybody in Afghanistan, all right? But basically, you were in this war shithole with, craziness everywhere. And so, in this space of madness, exhausted, you somehow hear that voice, right? Let go of the ego. And because shit, man, let go of your ego could be a billion things, right? But to lock it into where you were is pretty trip. That's pretty amazing shit right there because you put that together when it didn't have to. It didn't really make any sense to put those two together, but you did.
If I could share, I needed to get my ass because I'm a tough, resilient guy, right? I needed to get my ass kicked extra hard so I could completely run out of fuel. And I see the journey of, us humans as we start off with this energy and intention, and it's a bit like a guy in a boat with a powerful motor. And we're charging through the waves, we're charging through the tide, we can just power on with our willpower alone. But I was in a state where I'd completely run out of fuel and thought I was going to die, and I had no fuel left. But then when I started just observing and gently investing, I started seeing there was energy, things going on around me that I could work in with. So if you use the example of a person on a boat, no fuel, well, the wind's blowing, I'll put a sail up. Okay, so I'm not using my own willpower. I just look, there's a power there I can use. I'll put a sail up. The waves are going that way. I'm going to work with the waves. The tides are going a certain way. I'll work with the tides. Now, I might not go in a straight line as fast as I think I do, but it's an ease and grace that I'm working in with all the elements that are around me. And that was what I had to do, and I wouldn't have done it if I didn't reach that complete absolute ground zero. And this is the best thing about breaking down, is because you actually get to see if I'm going to move forward, I have to work in with what's going on around me. Maybe I can't have it all my way, you know, I'm pretty sure I'm a pretty tough dude. If I could have lived a full life, and if I didn't get my ass kicked so hard, so deep for as long, I could have gone through life surrounding myself with people, or surrounding myself with stuff and things that would sort of keep me thinking that I could do things my way 100% of the time. So working in with those, tapping into the higher energies, was how I had to go forward. Otherwise, I would, you know, what often happens is, if you give up, all the other people in the area, they're in boats that have given up, they kind of raft up together and they say, oh no, this is the way it's supposed to be. We've all given up, but we're not alone. And in the mental health space, veterans are really good at this. We create these anti-social social networks. Okay. So breaking the isolation of somebody is really powerful, but it can't stay there. You know, if you can only be yourself around a certain type of person, then you're not going to be yourself, for the 6.5 days of the week that you're on your own. So whenever I created these groups of people that wanted to heal, I had to encourage the idea of a trampoline. You go in, leave with more energy, and circulate in your space wider and longer, so you can come in, get more energy, and circulate more. And this is where people can get stuck. It's really powerful, feeling like your isolation's broken and someone else has got your back, but you can't treat it as where you stay. And so getting back to how I saved 40 veteran lives from suicide, those two things I did. I'm actually dyslexic, so I see things in patterns. And the pattern I kept on seeing again and again, Gary, was it didn't matter if the pain was physical or emotional. And it really didn't matter if you're a veteran, civilian, whoever you are. If you're a human, pain would get to a certain duration or intensity where it would transform, without the person even knowing it, into loneliness, isolation. The pain I'm in is so painful, I can't share it with anybody. You don't understand. And I'm just going to spend my energy putting on a bit of a face. Um, and, and there's millions of dollars spent on veteran recovery, mental health. But if you don't break a person's isolation, it's just water off a duck's back. So that was one of the things I saw that the mainstream didn't see. The mainstream just like, look, here's all the money we spent. That's good enough, and move on. Okay. So understanding that breaking the isolation is the first step, and you can't stay there. The next step is getting them out of fatigue, because if I'm feeling isolated and I'm the only one that's got my back, I'm in fight or flight, everything's a threat because everything is a threat. If I drop my guard for a second, something bad's going to happen, and it's going to be my fault. If I'm around people that are relaxed, in my mind, I was like, I have to be hyper vigilant for them, because if something bad starts happening, they're going to be like, oh, I don't even see it coming. The point I'm trying to make here is loneliness and fatigue, are destroyers of worlds. And what I'm going to share right now, it's not going to make sense, but the more I share it, the more it's going to blend into what we're saying right now. So in 2011, um, I was about to kill a man. The
You were
government,
what?
I
At
was about to
2011,
kill a
you
man. Okay. And the government wasn't paying me. This would have been murder. And I left the army. I had undiagnosed PTSD and it was getting to critical mass. I was drinking a lot. Family was falling apart. So I did what I thought was the right thing to do, go see a psychologist. And I was so triggered just going in there, talking to this guy I'd never met before. And I told him all the stuff I'd seen in service, all the this, the that, the this. And this guy wasn't just incompetent. I could handle incompetent. He was completely apathetic, you know? And at the end, after I told him all the shit I saw in service, he's like, "Oh, you think it was a problem with your mum and dad?" And that's when the whole room went, it just froze in time. That tick, tick, tick of the clock went, and I became super aware of where I was, and there was a glass frame psychology degree behind him. And in my isolated, disconnected state, it made a lot of sense to grab that glass framed psychology degree and ram it down his throat. I'm like, I'm gonna watch this guy bleed out because he's supposed to be a healer and he's not healing. He's hurting people, so he needs to be removed. So I thought I'd be doing everyone a favor by removing this guy. And this was the crazy shit that was going through my head when I was alone, isolated, and disconnected. And I get out of my chair to do it. But then I feel this hand on my chest, and the words red light. Tim, you're the toughest mofo you know. And you are struggling in a system that doesn't seem to want to help. How many others are out there struggling right now? And then Gary, I sat back down and that's when I saw them. I saw all these people left and right of me, thousands. And they were looking in saying, "Tim, if you can find a way forward for you, you can find a way forward for us." And I'm like, well, you know what? It doesn't matter if it takes me a week, a month, a decade. I've got to find a way through this. I have no idea how, but I get a sense that the decisions I'm making right now, people I possibly haven't even met yet are going to be really glad I did. And I have this feeling that if it takes me 10 years to figure this out, that's the amount of time I'm going to be able to save other people.
you know, I deal with grief counseling and grief work, and you just nailed it so on the head. You know, you lose somebody that's close to you. You lose a child, you lose a spouse, you lose a parent to some extent, but usually not because parents are supposed to go, right? But not your child and not, a spouse early and stuff like that. And that grief creates, just like you said, man, it creates that I'm just gonna continue to withdraw from people because you don't fucking understand. And if I hear one more time, "Oh, I get it. Oh, I know what you're going through," or "You could get remarried," or "You can have another child," I'm gonna take that certificate off of the wall and I'm gonna slice your fucking throat with it because you are hurting people. So your reaction was it it's such a guttural reaction because it's so true. It's so fucking true. It's like you just go, "You know what, dude? I've got to stop you from hurting people." But instead, you came to the realization it's like this person is totally insignificant. So why don't I help people? I don't need to kill this guy. It's not going to help enough people, right? So why don't I help myself and then expand it? And that's so in tune with the generosity stuff that you constantly talk about. Is that generosity? It's a beautiful thing, brother.
Well, the good thing about that human experience was I just invite everybody who's listening, everyone's up against something, whatever it is. It could be a loss of somebody, it could be something at work, it could be a relationship, it could be something within your own body. We're all up against something. The critical question we need to ask ourselves and be genuine with this: how many other people do you think are in your same situation right now? And don't shy away from it. Give it a genuine number, because those people are left and right of you, willing you on right now, looking into you and saying, listen, if you can find a way forward for us, if you can find a way forward for you, you can find a way forward for us. And it might take you a week, a month, a decade, but that's the amount of time you're probably going to be able to save us moving forward. And I put it to everyone listening right now, if you really take this seriously, there are going to be people yet saying, you know what, we're not in so many words, but they'll say words to this effect. You know what, we're so glad that in, December 2024, you started making decisions to move yourself forward, because that has just made my life so much easier. Thank you. You know, um, and if you really want to get real with this, Gary, if you're getting anything from this react interaction, you were there with me in 2011, willing me on.
Trust me, I felt that. I felt that. I lost my first wife to cancer in a not a good way. And that was 10 years ago almost. It was 10 years ago this month. And, I went to my first therapist and she was just fucking reading Therapy for Dummies. I mean, she was like, okay, let me go to the chapter on losing a spouse. All right, this is what yeah, okay, this one. I'm like, dude, I already read that book before I got here. All right, bro. I know, lady, I know what you're going to say. This is so unbelievable that you actually do this as a profession. You know what I mean? It's like, and I was out of it. I didn't even make the hour. I paid her for the hour and I was out of it. And I just couldn't find somebody who, I don't want to say gave a shit because I'm sure they gave a shit. But I couldn't find. It was like your guy. He completely had no concept of what he was doing with you. None. And he is lucky you didn't cold cock the guy.
Well, I think I could speak to this, Gary, and just to draw the listeners in, with what you're up against, that is your qualification to break the isolation other people in. Because I put it to you, Gary, when you were speaking to that first counselor, that was so frustrating because you were feeling alone in what you were doing, and this person has no idea. Now, you could, and everyone listening, you get through what you need to get through, you are now qualified to break the isolation of that person going through what you've been through. And you will probably not say anything they haven't heard possibly 1,000 times before, but you have the qualification to move it from up the head, just in the ears, down into their heart, into their DNA, and you can transform it into a possibility. And I need you to see the power you've got in that. We often shy away from the hurts and the burdens, and we lean into what we can do. This is what I do that adds value to others. But I can tell you without a word of a lie, it's not what we do that adds genuine value to others. It's what we've come through. And if you can really get the grasp of all that, then you get to see that you are the one that, Gary, in your case, you can speak to a partner of a person who's lost one to cancer.
No,
Only you can do that.
I get it 100%. The first podcast I started before this code was called Grief Pie. Grief Pie, Pie, and it was two guys sharing grief one bite at a time. And I tried to reach out to men who had lost a spouse, regardless of how they lost it. And I started it with a friend of mine, and it was so tough. He fucking crashed and burned, drinking a bottle of Jameson a day, and I lost him. And so I wanted to continue this, so I went and got grief counseling training through the Grief Recovery Method to the Grief Recovery Institute, so that I can start working with people with. I do believe you have to have gone through it, and I do believe that you have to have that experience, but I also believe you have to have some sort of knowledge so you're not fucking people up, right? Like you're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
doing something stupid.
You
So
just
I did get the training and I did get the certification to work with people going through grief because, like you said, I mean, yeah, it's one thing to experience, but the other thought for me is, and I know this is you because this is how you are with generosity, but the more you give, the better you feel. The more people you help, the better you feel. and you start letting go of a woe is me and start thinking about them and give to them. And that heals you faster than most
Yeah.
things will.
And underneath that, you're absolutely right, because yes, yourself, myself, and the people listening, once you get through what you get through, you've got the ability to break the isolation, but it can't just stay there. You've got to show them that you're living a life that you're aligned with and you're where you really want to be. And without saying anything, the person that have had their isolation broken, they're like, oh, right. Well, so you're actually past that and you're flourishing. How did you do that? And that's when you say, well, look, here's a referral to a particularly good counselor. Here's a referral to a particularly good healing modality. You give them actual tools to move forward. You can't just raft up and go, oh, we've broken our isolation, but we've got no fuel and we're going nowhere. And we're at the behest of the wind and the waves. Okay.
Exactly.
Um, and my experience was that once the isolation was broken, uh, people and the fatigue was, and they're out of fatigue. It was like inside of people, they've got this golden compass with a generator underneath it. And once you get rid of the uh, isolation and fatigue, it's like the shit falls off their inner compass, and it starts swinging to the direction they want to go, and the generator starts up. You know, so when you really understand what people really need, it's surprising how little people actually need, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
and and
you had talked about being the coffee bitch, right? Because you knew that that was going to give and that was going to help. But how did you save the 40 soldiers? I mean, my
yeah, yeah, yeah.
son is in the Air Force. He's in K9. He did the Ranger training. I mean, he's lost a lot of brothers. I mean, that shit's really, really real. I mean, I know people might see a commercial on TV, hey, donate $10 or whatever, and let's save a soldier or buy this wristband, but they have no fucking idea what really is going on. And so it's not a good friend of mine. He wrote the book Scars and Strife. He was in Afghanistan. He was went on to become a judge for the Veterans Court to try to save these guys from real court. And he works with a lot of PTSD. And he's like, seriously, man, don't let them close that door. Do not let them close that door. If you see them getting blues out, or you see them go in the bedroom by themselves, do not let them close that door. But still, you lose them. So I mean, how were you able to reach these brothers?
Okay, so I stopped counting at 40. Look, okay, to answer it, like I said, those two things that no one else saw that didn't show up on the spreadsheet:
Okay.
breaking isolation, getting them out of fatigue.
Right.
And it's easy to say that. It's another thing to apply that. Okay,
Yeah.
and it's not until you have a chronic health problem that you realize the world we're in currently is not an age of information. We're an age of marketing. First 6 pages of Google are marketing. All right. And there's a big difference between a marketer and a healer. Marketers are really good at speaking those unspoken words inside your heart. Oh, yes, that's exactly what I want. Shut up and take my money. Okay.
Yeah.
But as the years roll on, it's just repeat sale to the power you are looking for that was promised, and you end up blaming yourself. And you thought, well, the help didn't help. I'm never going to do that again. The difference, but a real healer, they're not as obvious. They don't always advertise, and they know that they're human and their energy is not enough for two, but they're connected to something super powerful. And it might have taken them 10 years to master that connection, but they'll get you in touch with that power in far less time, you know? So, what I did was created groups that got together, and I interviewed guys and they shared their stories, genuinely shared their stories. And this is all sober engagement. All right. And I specifically had them at sunset. So, and we're standing around outside, and the colors of the sun, those colors, we've been exposed to them for a millennia, right? and they set our minds up to release melatonin. I can go into my cave, and as the sunset went down, I'd start a fire, and the men would naturally come and gather around the fire. It was like I'm trying to tap into the deep ancient wiring. Okay, so one thing the psychologists haven't figured out yet is that the trauma goes down deeper than the words can reach. Okay, it's like trying to shoot a target. It's trying to shoot a gun that only shoots 200 meters, and your target's a kilometer away. You know, the person's like, you're not hitting my targets. Then the psychologist will say, well, look, I've spent 7 years studying how to make this great gun. I shoot it every day. You know, I've got a thing on the wall saying how good I am, but no one's telling them that they haven't realized 7 years of study. They haven't realized that words don't go down as deep as the trauma does. Okay. So you really need to understand how a human works at a very deep level to create a space where energy becomes porous. Okay. You can blend in with others and feel like it's okay. That person next to me's got my back. I feel safe here. And so the weekly meetings, sunset around the fire, and I'd always have them standing. And standing's cool, right? But then stand for a period of time and we eat together, and then we all sit down together and seated down in a circle, and I have one person genuinely sharing. And if I'd done my work right with all those men, and it was men specifically that I was working with, they would be so prepared that when people shared their story, it was like that person's became a mouthpiece for their unspoken words around inside their hearts. And the jaw would literally drop open, and it wouldn't matter if they were a Vietnam veteran, Afghanistan, or anybody. They'd start saying things like, fuck, I thought I was the only one. And the space we were in, it had a lot of other healing modalities there. It did have psychologists, it did have psychiatrists, it did have programs. Okay. So once people felt safe in that space and they could go from their house to this location easily, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand with PTSD or trauma, is, oh, okay, I've got to see a psychologist. Okay, but then you've got to drive from your door to this unknown place through a different place. You've got to find parking and uh, I'm just going to explain. We had a 90% non-attendance rate in at this charity Mates for Mates to all our events. Now, it didn't cost them anything. You know, we had a lot of money, a lot of budget, but no one was turning up. But I turned that into a 90% attendance rate because I understood the energetic dance in healing. And I'll just speak to that. So think of your mind like a garden, and whatever you water grows. Okay. And for years, I was watering the weeds of stress. And those weeds of stress were growing, growing, growing. And then they get to a point where eyeballs pop out of them and they become sentient. And they start going, you know what? I know what feeds me and I know what starves me. And I'm not going to be kicked out. So if there was something in my future that was, you know, like a program I could do that would benefit me, this weed in my head that I've been feeding for years, that would see it coming and go, you know what? Nah. You know, even if you go to that, I'm going to keep you up all night the night before, tossing and turning, and you're going to turn up and you're going to be completely stuffed. They're going to have nothing to work with. I've won, you know, because going from my door, this stress weed in my head would have me stressing out in traffic, have me stressing out and this, creating all this havoc. So I would turn up exhausted, and I could have had the best psychologist in the world there. But it wouldn't have gotten in because he's got nothing to work with. So understanding that, what I used to do is if I was running an activity, I'd just reach out 3 days before and just talk about nothing. You know, this person was just getting familiar with me. And I noticed that the stress weeds were stepped around if the person felt comfortable with another human. So I'm not going to the door and getting all this psychology stuff. I'm just going to meet a guy I know and I'm comfortable with. And I'll call them up like 72 hours before, 48 hours before, but especially like the night before, because nighttime's a hell of a time for people in trauma. And if you can just meet them where they are, then they turn up and they've got so much more to work with. So they're turning up and they're 100%. They're not like negative 300%. So you see how the goodness gets in once you understand, once you know how to remove the blockages for the goodness to get in.
Well, you made I freaking love the fire. You made it tribal. And what you did in my just from hearing what you're saying and my feeling for what you said, I'm not saying this is what you did, but for me, now I'm with my tribe. I'm I'm out in nature. I'm with my brothers. I'm safe, right? I'm comfortable. I'm not meeting some dude in a suit with a certificate on the fucking wall who's gonna just judge me, right? I'm in my tribe. These are my brothers. We're by fire. We're in the elements. And I think by you bringing that down and making it so tribal and safe, that these guys could open up. All that holding on, can start easing a little bit by just where you place them and put them in your tribe. That's, I mean, that's the feeling I get from it. And I wasn't there, but I mean, it's just like, that's freaking incredible. That's awesome.
Well, when you've got nothing, you have to use what works. So I was kind of the guy that, with 20 cents and a toothpick could do more than what millions of dollars of misappropriated funds could do.
Well, that's just it. I mean, they just think they keep pouring money on the thing or getting more psychiatrists and more doctors and more bullshit. And you did more with a fire and some rocks and some and being outside than a lot of these guys done with hundreds of millions of dollars and psychiatrists after psychologists and all this bullshit because you took it down to where these guys can be safe. Like you said, once you get in your car and you drive to the doctor's office, you're fighting traffic, you meet with some asshole, he talks to you about whatever. You don't even want to care what the hell he's talking about because he doesn't give a shit. He's just waiting for his next hour appointment. And then you drive home. None of that's taken you. None of that's made you feel
Yeah.
safe. None of that's made
Oh,
you
and you're usually drugged out as hell as well, you
right.
know?
Yeah, because they're putting you on the drugs, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. See, that's not. I was thinking about not just the tribal feeling and the safe place, but your ability to make someone feel comfortable knowing that you're giving them, not just being the coffee bitch and giving that way, but also by like genuinely caring, genuinely feeling. You're just not another appointment on this thing, and you're a sufferer. I mean, like you were saying to me, I've been through it. So I do, I don't, no one knows exactly what you went through. It's just the stupidest thing in the fucking world. But I've at least been in your moccasins. I've at least been there. So we could
Mm.
start there, you know?
Yeah, they were just waiting for somebody to speak the words they wish they could hear. And then it's amazing what happens after that. And I'm not trying to, personify myself here. I do want the audience to see that you are qualified if you move through what you're up against and you see those people left and right of you. And it's no longer you just doing one action. There's a million of you doing that action. There's a million of you going from your door to that psychologist. There's a million of you, struggling through with whatever you need to get through. And I even do it. So my thing is, I do acts of generosity to the environment. So I'll pick up cigarette butts and plastics, and it's not me picking up one cigarette butt. It's a million of me picking up a cigarette butt. And if you can sort of multiply out who you are, then that is so super powerful. Um, and I hope people are really seeing this for themselves. Um,
Well, I, we've taken the soldiers, we saved soldiers. We've overabundance of the generosity and the love. You've gone tribal with them. You've been able to come up with something that works. Okay. So, and then from there, you moved into this breath work. From there, you moved into the sleep. Um, I know people with PSD don't sleep, right? I mean, I don't, right? I mean, you relive crazy shit in your brain. I'm sure soldiers way more than just someone who lost a spouse, right? So, how do you get in their mind and start calming their mind, start
yeah.
helping with just letting that release?
Okay, so at the end of this, I'm going to give you a lived experience. All right. The reason I'm going to tell you how I got to it, but you need to understand the reason that breath work is so powerful and potent is that if you think of us humans as living organisms, before we were sentient, before we were putting, pictures on, cave walls, we were breathing. Okay. Before we were speaking, we were breathing. And that deep ancient wiring still lives inside of us. And it actually outranks our thoughts, it outranks our words, and it takes you to places that when I ask people, I mean, I'm blah blah blahing about an experience that you can't explain. You'll soon get that at the end. But often when I have people go through these guided experiences, they're like, "Yeah, I can't explain with words. It's just a very deep ancient feeling." Um, and so I came to the power of breath work. I'd been, breathing for a bit, but it didn't really hit home for me until I'd gotten divorced. I'd lost my house, home, regular access to kids, all my money. I just had a car, a dog, and I was sleeping on the lounge room of my parents' place. And you can bet that I was having trouble sleeping. And I had, again, the idea of watering the stress weeds. I was watering the stress weeds, and they were fully sentient, and they knew. And even though I was a breathwork coach and I knew what would make me feel better, it's like I couldn't. It's like I was locked out of that because these stress weeds like, nah, you stay stressed. And I could write down, yes, I know breathwork would help me right now, but it's like I couldn't do it. And so I was at a point where I was either gonna do self-harm, drink a lot of alcohol, have a lot of pills, because I was just going nuts, 2 a.m. or whenever it was. And I look at my left thumb and I say, Tim, you can take one breath. Just take one fucking breath. And I drove it as hard as I could in my chest. I went, oh my gosh, that worked. Okay, two breaths, two breaths. I put two fingers into my chest. Okay, okay, this is working. Three, three, three. Let's get to three. Okay, let's get to five. Let's get to five. Let's get to 10. And then somewhere between 15 and 25 breaths, Gary, the stress weeds were kicked out, and the rest of my brain was thank fuck you kicked them out. This is working. Keep doing it. Okay. So that deep ancient wiring outranks the shit we've got in our head. Okay. But that shit we've got in our head will say, no, it won't work. It won't work. It's bullshit. But between breath 15 and 25, that's when the magic happens and all that shit gets released, you know? And then I started thinking, well, shit, this really works. I'm sure in some other reality, there's a Tim that took that alcohol and took those pills, and I'm sure there's other people that did that themselves. So if I found something that genuinely works when you got fuck all and nothing other than your breath and your name, surely this has got to work. If this really works, we've got to make it available for others. You know, so therein lies the going from something I knew that worked to then making it readily available to people that need it. So that was the birthplace. Post divorce, I was at a whole new war zone in my head, and then discovering how hard it is to do something that you'll be benefited from. And then that's when my company Breathwork in Bed was essentially born.
I want to ask you about the breathwork in bed, but I want to describe a breathwork class I took very, very quickly and see if that's relatable to what you're doing. I mean, there's a lot of different type of breathwork. So I took a breathwork class with a young lady. She said, I won't come on your podcast until you do the breathwork class. It took me a year of being a pussy to finally go, oh, fuck, all right, I'll do it because I want you on the podcast, right? So I took the breathwork. So uh, an hour and a half of listening to music and her talking and me laughing hysterically and crying my eyes out and levitating off of the floor and my body shaking and sweating. And after an hour and a half, and when she finally stopped, I was like, holy shit. Now, is this what your program is like running courses like this, or you do it's a different type of breath work that you're involved with?
So you've said it very well. There is as many As much as you go to a gym and there's all these different exercises you can do with your body, you can do that with your breath. Okay. And there are these, holotropic rebirthing experiences, but that's like doing CrossFit and you're not ready for it. It's like doing a hyper intense experience. And if you're not ready for it, you know, shit can get real, real quick. All right. So my, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I always believe you give people a gentle on ramp to where they want to go. And people usually do stuff when they see the self benefit in it. So if you can use the gentle breath work that I use to help you sleep better, oh, that's good. I'll do more of that. And then you know what? You might use it to help to wake up in the morning. So the breath work, breath work in bed provides is very different going to sleep to then actually waking up. And I'm telling you, that was the biggest impact to me because I struggle to get out of bed. I just feel like this lead weight. And from that extreme, I generated something that actually works. And even though I made it, there's always that part of me in the morning that's saying, this is bullshit. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. But you do bit by bit by bit by bit. And then you turn that lead into gold and your feet hit the floor so very differently, and this is all before getting out of bed. And so I like to meet people where they are. These people that do these high, awesome stuff, that's awesome, right? But most people don't live in that space. I want to reach where most people live, and that is, in the bedroom at night where they're possibly not sleeping as well as they want to, or they want to improve their sleep because I can't do what they do. But if I can improve their sleep quality, they're going to do what they do even better. And the exciting part about this isn't is initially, yes, you do need to, improve your sleep, get yourself out of fatigue. But if you look at the idea of, sleep is the soil from which everything grows, we have dormant seeds of greatness and uniqueness inside of us. And those dormant seeds are just waiting for the right conditions for them to grow. And improving sleep quality, improving the soil from which you grow, you'll be surprised what comes out of you after that. And what really lights me up and gets me super excited is just standing back and watching the show because you don't know what's underneath that soil, So when you give that soil what it needs, and you're like, wow, look at that. That never happened. I wouldn't, yeah, wow, right? So that's why I'm super excited. So yes, getting out of fatigue, but the super exciting stuff is all those dormant seeds of greatness, uniqueness that then flourish, and you cannot not flourish when you're getting that, wonderful, amazing quality sleep.
So what is, because you can see I am not a sleeper, right? My brain just doesn't shut. And I know that sleep, like I said, that breath, the book Breath was very interesting, but it was a different kind of topic about what we're talking about and different than the breath work thing it is. So your breath work in bed, are these special sheets, or these special meditations, are they?
So you just all when you go in there to the app, it asks you two questions because I'm not a tech person. I am not a tech person. So I said, I want you to make this so non-tech savvy people can use it, and it just falls out of the phone with ease and grace. We shouldn't have to muck around with this thing because people are already doing enough. I shouldn't have to try and figure something extra out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you go into it, it'll ask you two very important questions. When do you want to sleep? And when do you want to wake up? Okay. And then it just falls out of your phone with a notification at, say, 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night. You press that notification, you press play, and, your alarm might go off and you'll see a notification there. You hit the notification before you get out of bed, press play, and you activate your body with breath. And I cannot tell you, it's such a game changer winning the first 10 minutes of your day. And so it's gentle, easy, effortless experience. Oh, it's just a case of, oh, that felt good. I'll keep doing it. That felt good. I'll keep doing it. And
Yeah.
and the kind of the most powerful healing takes place when you don't even know it's taking place. You've just changed your marinade. Like this is just amazing. And the way I see humans, Gary, is, we're like, $500 a pound pieces of steak, right? But if we marinate those 500, dollar a pound steaks and shit, they're going to smell like shit and taste like shit. Okay. And And our current consumer society that has us see that our value is outside of us, it's not actually inside of us. Okay, that's the shit marinade. When we actually start accessing our own resources, when we see the power of our own breath to self-medicate, all that shit gets redundant real quick and we start becoming sovereign individuals. You know, I can self-medicate me. So people ask me, how often should I do breath work? And I'm like, well, speaking to a guy that lost 6 years of his life to pills, I was a zombified pill eater, and I had pills not just in my medicine cabinet, but by my bed, in my car, in my glove box, in the fruit bowl, because I couldn't self regulate and I was always taking these pills to do that. So now, and again, I'm going to show you this technique before we leave today. I use breath to make the impossible possible. I use breath to create peace when there's no peace. And
Wow.
and that and having knowledge of that is like power in your corner. Like I don't see myself as a breathwork coach. I see myself as the person that introduces you to the best friend you're going to have for the rest of your life. I'm going to introduce you to the love of your life, and it's always going to be there. It'll be there when you go to sleep. It'll be there when you wake up. When you need it, it is a breath away.
I love it. I love it. I want you to teach me that real quick, but I I want to know about your book. Can we talk about the
Yeah,
book real
sure.
quick?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And then we're going to come back and you're going to teach us this. You're going to show us this. But I just found this one sentence, fascinating. And I just the book is called Fight, Flight, and Feel. And what if there? Yes, that's the freaking book right there. Okay, so what if there was something already inside of you that could change everything outside of you? What is that one thing? And I just go, God, that's such my one of my questions. I mean, I love questions. That's why I do this, right? But what if there was something already inside of you that could change everything outside of you? And obviously, sleep is one of them because you can't function. Lack of sleep will give you extra dysfunction thing, whatever that is, ED. It'll give you headaches. It'll ruin your marriage. It'll fuck up your diet. You won't exercise. You'll kick the dog. You'll yell at the kids. So lack of sleep will just completely devastate everything. But your book, Fight, Flight, Feel. I love that sentence, man. What if there was something already inside of you that you could change everything outside of? So what is the deal with that? With your book?
well, in some ways, it's a rhetorical question because I could share what worked for me. I wrote a book about it. I was cut off in an ambush in Afghanistan, thought I was going to die, and I had this transformative experience. But if I'm about permanency for people, I don't want to give them a nice story. I want to give them access to tools. So the question needs to be posed, if there was, what's the one thing you could do in your life that would make the most amount of difference to you? And if you take the time to answer that and you actually take the time to implement that, I could support you with that by creating a more fertile soil for that to grow. I could help you sleep better so you've got more energy to invest into that one thing. That's the conversation I have with my piece of the wellness pie. But ultimately, take the time to answer that because everyone kind of knows it, but they haven't had the chance. It's a whisper in the back of their head, you know. And there's so many loud things out there, right? And we're competing with all these loud things. We're having so much stuff poured into our eyes, poured into our ears, poured into our bodies. We're not actually getting a chance to let out that soft little whisper that says, what is it that you want to bring out? Because it's so counter to what we've been fed since we're knee high that, we're supposed to have certain things. We're supposed to have a certain shoes, a certain house, a certain income. The value is outside of us. The value is not inside of us. So I encourage people, you have to see the value in yourself before anyone else sees it. And it might be in a stage where it's so small um, that you can barely see it yourself. But I just invite you to invest in it. So when I had nothing left and I had that 2 cents worth of energy, I invested that 2 cents and I got 4 cents. And nobody knew or could see what I was doing. If I tried to articulate what I was doing, they're like, no, whatever, right? So I had to generate myself to a certain critical mass inside my own skin to then and powerfully connect inside my own skin with this thing, and then I could pay it forward outside of my own skin. So it this is I don't believe everyone's special. I really don't, because we're all different. But what we do have is like a startup capital, and how we invest that capital, how we invest our energy is how we get it back. And that question, and I really hope the audience draws it closer to themselves. What's the one thing you could do that would change everything? And then start bringing that part into the world, into yourself first, grow up to critical mass, and then just watch what happens. If you want to go on an incredible journey, you know, to undiscovered lands, to get off the map of what we think is possible, listen to that little whisper. It sometimes occurs like, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great to achieve this? Oh, it'd be impossible, but I'd really want to do that, you know? And conversely, if I didn't do that, I would really regret it.
Yeah.
Does that
I
answer
mean,
your question, Gary?
that's where this whole what if you could concept came from me, because when I was either doing the grief work, or when I was doing coaching, I'm a real estate broker by trade, and do coaching with new agents or whatever, people say, well, God, that person does so well, or that person does this, and like I can never do that. So what if you could? I mean, what if you could? Why can't you? Where is that? When I read that, like what you said, because it just hit so home for me, because that's something that someone should put on their fucking mirror and read every day. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Honestly, and just read it every day. There's something inside of you that, what if you get it outside of you, and what is that one thing? And but I just want to take this back. So you're in another life and death situation. Whether it's sharks or this one, but this one you're ambushed down, and this thought comes in your head. Was it because you
Well,
thought, well, this might be the last thought I had, or how did you
well,
come up with this?
well, the what saw the situation was that we were going into an RPG ambush, rocket propelled grenade ambush, and that wasn't like anything new. It happened every day, right? And the procedure was, in the vehicle convoy we're in, all the heavily armored vehicles go to the rear of the convoy, because the rear vehicles always get attacked because they're least defended. Um, and in the rush before getting into this formation, a heavily armored vehicle cut us off, and we were now the rear vehicle. And we're all experienced soldiers in there. We all knew what was up, and my vehicle commander looked over his shoulder and he says, "Fellas, if this goes the way I think it will, it's been an honor serving with you." You know,
Wow.
and I
That's not
wasn't.
something you want to hear, by the way. From your that's like the captain of the Titanic going, "Hey guys, we're fucked. It was nice knowing you." Right? It's just not something you want to hear the guy say, right?
But in the moment, it was like, yeah, he's speaking the things while he's alive that he would have want to said when he's dead. you
Yeah.
know. But in that moment for myself, I interpreted that guy, whether we're in the blind spot, I interpreted him just trying to save his own ass. So I was mad as hell at this guy, you know, and we call them ramp ceremonies, where we carry the fallen brother down the ramp of the airplane, the flag over the body, there's always the family, the weeping widow. And I saw my own ramp ceremony. I saw myself getting carried down there, the wife and kids crying, all this bullshit ceremony, all because we got cut off in traffic, you know. And I was using a bit of dark humor there, but joking to one side, the emotions I was feeling, the anger, the hatred, the frustration, the fear, was was tourniqueting my thoughts. I was in my lower energy centers, like fuck you, right? And I
Ah.
couldn't think. It was all about me. And it was then a question came to me. that has sculpted me for the rest of my life. In that space, when I felt completely lost and going to die, I'm not going to see my family again, this question said, Tim, who do you know who has done this before, and how did they get through it? And I'm like, I don't know anybody who's done this before, and you know what? The night got darker and I began to feel very alone. But then I actually started thinking outside of my timeline. Now in Australia, we have our Anzacs, where on the beach of Gallipoli, they went up against these Turkish defenders that knew they were coming, and they lost like 8,000 men in one campaign. And in that moment, I said, I do know someone who's done this before. The Anzacs. And what did those Anzacs do when they were thrown a shit sandwich coming up that beach? They were up against an enemy that knew they were coming. What did they do? They kept moving forward. The outside world could not stop them from seeing the power inside of them. And it was like this portal opened up from, 100 plus years ago. And in Australia, we have this saying on Anzac Day. We say, lest we forget. Okay, lest we forget the sacrifice of those before us. And it was like these Anzacs came through this portal, poked me in the chest and said, Tim, lest you forget. Lest you forget the power inside of you. Lest you forget the power of looking after your mates. And I tell you, Gary, it was like the sun came up at midnight. My whole body felt illuminated, you know? And before we hit the kill box, the ambush place, I had one of the coolest experiences. I saw my whole body, the circulatory system jump out of myself, and I saw the blood tracking down my legs and arms and up to my brain. I'm like, I only need to maintain positive pressure to my brain. These are going to be RPGs, so I might lose an arm or a leg. But if I tourniquet that, if I pinch that off, put a hose clamp on it, I'll keep positive pressure to my brain, you know? And even if I do bleed out and die, I did the math, because I'm thinking now, my brain's alive. I'm like, RPGs, they self-destruct at 1,500 meters. So they're probably going to shoot at us from 800 to 1,200 meters, right? That's Australian, about 1,500 yards.
Right.
And we're going at about 35 kilometers an hour. So I worked the arc. We're going to be in the kill box for 3 to 5 minutes. And I said, that's cool. Even if I take a hit and I bleed out and die, my fellow brothers here are going to be able to revive me with a saline drip. Okay. And I need to be ready for them to do the same. So I got 2 tourniquets and I put them on my chest. And I'm like, right, I'm fucking good to go here. And I said, you know what? They might find my body in 5 minutes' time. But you know what they're not going to find? Magazines full of bullets. I'm emptying all ammunition on this one. And I thought, you know what, Tim? It doesn't matter if you die in 5 minutes' time or 50 years' time. That's not a bad way to live. Like, your magazines contain simple bullets. All right. But your mind, Gary, everyone's mind that's listening to this, our minds contain something so much more potent and powerful than just simple bullets. They contain ideas, hopes, dreams, whispers. Wouldn't it be a greater tragedy to die with all those things still in your head?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just such an enlightening and powerful thing. It just brings up just a million things in my brain. Last thought, because of what you said, is Zig Ziglar said he's I don't know if you know who he is. He's an American inspirational motivation guy who died a while back. But Zig Ziglar always said, "Don't die with your music still in you. Don't die with your music still in you. Dance, do whatever it takes." But you touched on something. So is that where the fight, flight, feel came from your book? I mean, was
Yep.
that the moment where you go, "Fuck it, I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna get out of here, and then I'm gonna feel again. I'm gonna live." I mean, is that where that came from? That moment?
Yeah. Well, one thing that makes all the difference inside of you, some would call it energy, some would call it breath. And when I was investing my energy and breath into my emotions and, lower energy centers, anger, fight, you know, and my breath was probably like, you know, but then when I tapped into something a bit bigger than myself, it was like, and I just ascended to a place where I could see things clearly. It was like going up in a drone. I wasn't reacting to what was here, I was up here. And whatever mechanism you use for you to ascend, everyone's got their usually a physical discipline that allows them to get above where they are. And that makes all the difference. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Because
well,
I don't
that
want to
and
leave it in woo woo and ethereum. I want people to get a real grip on this. I don't want them just to feel good and have nothing. I'm like, do the looking. Think of something that you can actually take away from this. And I mean, I love sharing this, and I hope people are getting something from it. But if we just left it at a nice interaction, we would have failed the audience. We want them to 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 get as much tangible takeaway, put it in your coffee when you get home experience.
well, that's why I wanted to bring it back to those three words because you don't have to be in the death zone, the fight box, the fire box. You don't have to be in that position to have that feeling come upon you. You could be heading to bankruptcy. You could be I'm losing my house. You could be in real world situations, not that crazy shit you were, but where an everyday thing can take you there because we're so fragile, right? So that's what I'm saying. For you to explain it the way you did, right, is helpful because now you gave us something that we can use tangibly, right? Something comes upon you and gives you that anxiety attack, and if you suffer from PTSD or just grief or whatever, panic attacks are wicked, man. They'll come on you hard out of nowhere. And if you could have an exercise that can take you down to so you can get through that, that's huge. And I think that's what you just shared with us.
Absolutely. I think that I was allowed to survive that experience so I can be a mouthpiece for people to get more access to those places inside of them. I was fortunate enough to be in a situation where I could really zoom into, you know, the street map, so to speak. And then when I pull out, I say I can hopefully articulate it so people can get through any, roadblocks they're up against. That's what the ideal for me would be.
Yeah. What is so walk us through this now. We're going to go back to the breath work. Now, so
Yep, sure.
this is breath work in bed,
Hmm?
right? And so this is something that you came up with to help us sleep and also when we wake up, which is the most important few moments of the entire day, is how you set your mindset, how you set your anticipation for what you want to do and how you set your path, right?
Yep,
So
yep.
so how do we do that? What I know we got to
Okay,
take the
so
course, but I mean briefly, a brief
look, all,
description of it.
all, all you need to do is go into your app store, whether you've got an Android or a smartphone, and put in three words: breath work, one word, in bed. Think
Breath work
breakfast.
in bed. All
Yeah,
right.
think breakfast in bed, but breath work in bed.
Right.
And there's a 28-day free trial. Okay. But I do want a community that sees the importance of, spending less than a cup of coffee to protect your sleep. So there is a paid subscription, and we actually do use this to help research into veterans with PTSD, as well as brain injuries, Alzheimer's, these sorts of things. So I'm using that. I do an amount of fundraising, so I'm using that for fundraising. But I also find that when part of my uh, turnaround from 90% non-attendance to 90% attendance was having the veterans pay a small uh, dollar price for the course they're going to do. And when people paid a small dollar sum, they would then see they want to get something back from it, so they'd be more invested. Okay, so there's a 28-day free trial. You can trial it, see if it works for you, but then there's a few bucks to keep that subscription going. But considering that when you go into the app, you're going to be asked when you want to sleep, when you want to go to sleep, and when do you want to wake up. And then we take care of the rest. You'll just get notifications falling out of your phone. Now, let's say, for example, you're starting to feel better and better. And you're like, well, I'm feeling pretty good inside my own skin. I wonder what other investments I can invest in to get a really good return from. So this is where the genius of the app comes in, Gary. We have what's called a generosity news wall, where at the end of your morning routine, you don't just do breath work to get out of bed. You actually get, it's called mirror work, saying positive affirmations in the mirror. So it's one thing to connect with your body, saying these things, looking at the mirror. Holy crap. Like as a hardcore soldier, I was like, this is bullshit. This is not going to work. But then crap, it works. I'm like, this works. This works, man. So I had to put it in there, right? So to connect with your body, connect with your mind. And then I asked people to consider the possibility that powerful connections inside of us are only half the circuit. We want to go full circle. We connect outside of our own skin. We pay it forward with an act of generosity.
Mm.
Doesn't have to cost you anything. Could be letting someone in on traffic. Could be, I like picking up cigarette butts, you know? So these are the things that allow us to go full circle connecting with other things, other people, and that's what it is to be human. I believe that truly powerful people are truly generous people. Generous with themselves first. Let's be sure about that. But then generous in a way that is unique to them, giving of your abundance. And so, I'm a physical dude, right? So I like to give, it's very easy for me to give physical help. I'm always looking to help old people or people, just things in my space that is easy for me to do. And I'm like, you know, whatever it is. So everyone's got an abundance of something. And I just encourage people to give of that. I've had the fortune of being brought up with very generous parents. They worked with people in very low socioeconomic circumstances, and I couldn't be generous like they were. That was their gift. So I had to find my own way of being generous. And it's not because I'm this stargazer that I'm generous. I see that part of my own power is, penetrating into the world and giving of myself without any expectation, knowing that I'm in touch with something so much bigger. And there's and so within the app, let's say you get your sleep really well and you're waking up and you're saying these positive things and you want to do an act of generosity and you share it with others. It's amazing what happens when you just share a simple act and other people go, oh, wow. Let's just say Ted from Texas took his neighbor's bins in. Yeah, man, that's awesome. I never met Ted, but I'm super pumped that he took his neighbor's bins in. The thing is, empowered and connected people, we have the numbers, but we don't have the spotlight. So the current narrative in our Western world is the news, and you're not often hearing from connected and empowered people. And you know what I said about the mind's like a garden, whatever you water grows? If you're watching the news, you are watering the weeds of disempowerment and apathy. All this, and the world's terrible. Look at all the things that are happening. It's terrible. Is that you saying it, or is that the TV speaking through you? So if you want to be sovereign, I cut out all media. People ask me about what's going on. I'm like, no, I deliberately choose not to, because that takes me away from my powerful generosity. It stops me being sovereign. And so I want to change the narrative. I want people to, have that notification come up on their phone going, oh, Albert from Australia, bought his mum a coffee. Um, an act of generosity I did for my parents recently was I had to be on hold for like an hour and a half to get their Optus get internet connected for them, and just things like that. But you do it deliberately and not begrudgingly, because you understand the saying that a good deed is its own reward. You're not doing it because you want something back. You're doing it because you affirm that you're powerful. But you're depriving other people of inspiration and power by not sharing it, in my mind. Because, like I said, in the world right now, there's more empowered and connected people. We've got the numbers, but we don't have the spotlight. My vision is to get people out of fatigue. They experience their own power, but then they also share that and inspire others.
Well, you touched on some great stuff there. One of my favorite guys I used to listen to a lot is a guy named Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn used to always say, if you're in an airplane and the plane's going to shit and the oxygen mask come down, put your mask on first, right? Put your mask on first, because if you don't take care of yourself, you go to put it on your child, it doesn't get done, you die, right? So what good is it? So put your mask on first. And that's that self-love you're talking about, that self-caring. And trust me, those affirmations to yourself, they matter. And the way we know they matter is because we say 70,000 negative things to ourselves every fucking day and beat the shit out of ourselves every day. And we see the results, right? Now, if we said 70,000 positive comments to ourselves every day, which most people would think, well, that's crazy. You're not going to say nice things to yourself all day. Well, why not? Right? Why not start the day with that positive affirmation? And then the other thought is the paying forward. The paying forward. Your generosity app is paying it forward on a daily basis. You
Yeah.
know, it feels good to do something, and someone sees that and goes, "I'll screw it. I'm going to try that." And then that feels good. And you've got a couple billion people on your app sharing this stuff. I mean, think about what that does to the world. Think about that, how that changes the energy of the entire world, right? We go from this negative craziness into people just, sharing, a billion people, 2 billion people sharing all this positive energy around the world 24 hours a day because you're in Australia, I'm in America. I mean, imagine the power of that, right? It's incredible. And I don't care if it's, $100 a month or 1,000 bucks a month or 10 bucks a month, whatever it is. It's not just to generate massive amounts of income that you could do good shit with, but think of the overall goodness for the planet. I mean, you got 2 billion people on Facebook spreading just negative shit constantly. But what if they went to your app and spread 2 billion people spreading positive shit? It could change the energy of the planet. It's awesome. Let's do it. Let's get 2 billion people on your app sharing good shit.
No, I love it, and I'm lit up, and I hope that people listening to this get that lit up sense as well. Because, there's a saying, we're all connected. That's a bit loose for me. The way I look at it is we're all on the same grid, right? And we're actually feeling each other more than we expect. And it becomes really obvious when someone on our grid that we care about dies. And those invisible golden threads that we were always feeling, they get severed. Aware of the connections we have with others. So my theory is that just like when someone's physically removed from the grid, when someone's physically improved on the grid, we benefit from that as well. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just not as obvious as the negative. And so when you get that sense that we're all on this grid together, you can't hurt somebody or do something even just in your thoughts that doesn't take away from yourself. And that really stood out to me. For some reason, I'm like, no, I can't even, not even in my thoughts, can I try and fuck someone over or one over because, or be selfish because that's going to impact me. So the best thing I could do is ask myself, what do I truly need? Because I don't believe sincerity is natural. I believe sincerity happens on the back of asking yourself, well, okay, how much do I need? I need so much time connecting to my body, connecting to, my God, connecting to money, connecting to physical intimacy, relationships, time with my dog. If I can ask myself that and I can get myself into a place of abundance, I can interact with people and not try and influence the outcome. Okay. But conversely, if I don't ask myself, what do I truly need? And I don't meet those needs, when I'm interacting, consciously or not, I'm always going to be trying to control the outcome to benefit me. And people pick up on that, and you can get by like that, but you're not really. And I just want to dial into this because to me, the most valuable, productive, and incredible thing on this planet is a true friend, like a true friend, right? Because around a true friend, you can be yourself, warts and all. Okay. Warts and all, ugly, right?
Oh yeah.
right? And I want you to take the formula that's working there. Okay. So around a true friend, I thought, well, that's really potent, but I can't be a true friend to everybody. But what is it about the true friend dynamic that's so potent? And in my perception, it was there was a zero threat environment. I felt no threat from that person. That person accept me or whatever, so I can just be myself. Okay. And I'm like, okay, I think it's possible to give everyone you interact with a zero threat environment, provided you're sincere. And on the back of that sincerity, you fill up your own cup, you be generous with yourself so you can be generous with others. And you can give them that zero threat environment. And it doesn't matter, almost doesn't matter what you say, you're resonating on a frequency where people just drop into that space really quickly. They're like, oh, hello, you know, and that in itself is an incredible act of generosity just to give people. You know what I mean? And here, because I was in a coffee shop I had a coffee shop for a couple of years, and what I noticed was that, and I knew everybody's name, I knew what they drank, I knew the last conversation I had, and all it took was maybe 30 to 40 seconds of that person feeling really known, even though I was a complete stranger per se. They felt known, they felt understood and safe, and their energy levels would just go like this before they even got the coffee, And I realized people would drive suburbs to get to my little coffee shop, and my coffee was, I always worked on it being good, but you just notice their energy go when they felt known and understood. And I'm like, it's amazing how little people need when you understand what they really, really want.
Yeah. Wow, you nailed it with that. 100%. But and for me, from what our conversation, knowing you, it comes back to your tribe. And that's how you got to the brothers is they were in the tribe around that fire pit with you. They were safe. They were your people. Now you're just going to expand your tribe to 2 billion people, right? Where we're all in the same tribe. We've nothing like you said. Nothing feels better than getting with your buddy of 40 years. I got friends from 40 years ago, right? We get together, dude. Talk about warts. They know they know where the bodies are hidden, man. Thank God we didn't have cell phones back there.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
shit
yeah,
would be
yeah.
ugly, right? So it's like so yeah, so when you're with those people, they're your family, they're your tribe, they're your soul. There's nothing that can go sideways there, right? So imagine having people, that many people, be able to have that feeling together. It'd be unstoppable. It would be the most amazing feeling. That it would be more than nuclear energy. It would be massive. It'd be massive. So, listen, you've been so gracious with your time. We've been going forever, and I know that this is morning for you, but seriously, Tim, this has been great. I'm going to make sure we've got your book on the podcast on the website, the link to your app, your information about breath work in bed. Everything will be on there, so people just click on it, reach out to you. They could find the download. It'll all be accessible for them to reach. But I do always end with I ask my first question, and so I always end with the last question. And my last question could be anything, anywhere you want to go with it, right? But I always ask people at the end, and I don't tell them I'm going to do this like I did with the other question, but basically, if there's a thought, a mantra, a thought, a, a, a prayer, if there's something that meant something to you that you wanted to leave people with and you wanted to share with our audience, what would that last thing be? What's that something you'd really like to share? Last thought.
I would like to share with you a thought and an embodied activity. I want you to consider the possibility that in the space of 3 proper breaths, your body and mind are going to be completely relaxed. And if you're open to it, I want to show you how it's done.
Oh hell yeah. Let's
Okay,
do
so
it.
the only caveat to this one, Gary, is I request people be seated, comfortable. or laying down. They can't be driving or operating heavy machinery or cutting up carrots. They want to allow this breath to go into every part of them. Okay. And you might have to give yourself permission right now. Oh, I'm taking 3 breaths. There could be something up against that. All right. And I've usually found that if there's something that we're refusing to do, it's because of something that we're refusing to feel. All right. So when I was really stressed out and I was I knew that breath work would help, but I was refusing um, to do that was because I was refusing to give up my stress, even though I knew it was killing me. I was just hanging on to it. So just give yourself permission right now to just let your breath do what it does naturally. Okay. So all we're going to do is just simply breathe in, just breathe in. Now breathe in again and again and again. Now just let that go. And did you notice a little bit of extra space in, on your breathing into your sort of upper chest?
Yes.
So let's do this again and just make it a bit smoother. Breathe in and then breathe in again, again, and again. So I invite people just to breathe in again, again, and again. And then just let that go. Nice work. All right. So that will call, I've introduced you to your secondary inhale. Your primary inhale is where you just breathe in normally. Your secondary inhale is where you breathe in again and again and again. Now, I'm going to show you how to turbo boost that secondary inhale. Okay. Breath work isn't hard, but because we've been breathing our whole lives, to do it any differently, it kind of feels a bit awkward. So just be generous with yourself. If you can crack this for you, I can guarantee there's thousands of people that you'll be happy you did it. All right. So you didn't know this, but in your fingers and thumbs, you've got a turbo button. Okay. So what's going to happen is we're going to breathe in our primary inhale. And when it comes to our secondary inhale, we're going to hit the turbo buttons. We're going to pinch our fingers into our thumb as hard as we can, like our pointer finger and our index finger. And we're going to notice how that helps boost our secondary inhale. So I'll give you a little demonstration. We're going to go like so. Give that a try.
Okay. So I'm
So
going to
start,
breathe. Am I going into my diaphragm or I'm still staying in my
just just
chest?
just work on this
Okay.
top third. Okay.
Okay.
So
Yep.
start breathing in, then hit your turbo buttons and snort it through your nose. Pinch them hard, pinch them hard. That's it. Okay, let it go.
I got a massive head rush, man.
All right. And the best thing about this is people start laughing. All right. They just have this big smile because we're displacing te tension and anxiety up here. So we're going to do the same thing again, but make it nice and smooth. So when you breathe in, then hit your power buttons and really snort that nose, really kind of flare your nostrils. So it's okay. Give that a try. Breathe in, hit your power buttons, hold them, and then just let it go. All right. Now,
Like I'm on mushrooms, man. I think I'm
oh
on
yeah, man.
psychedelics, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're not even halfway there yet.
Okay.
Okay. People wonder why I do 2 hours of breath work a day. And I said, if you could do something that feels amazing, makes every bit of your life better, makes every bit of your body stronger, fitter, faster, would you do it? I'm like, and it's free and it's not addictive, you know? I'm like, makes sense. But look, let's stay with what we've got. Did you notice that when you hit your turbo buttons, you sort of gave your secondary inhale a bit of a boost?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was
Now,
tapping, so I'm glad you reminded me to press them down hard
yeah,
and stop. I don't know
press
why I was
down hard.
tapping instead of pressing, but yeah.
Like those buttons on your old machinery. You got to, if you press it extra hard, it works. You know.
I got some old buttons, man.
Yeah. Oh, you got me. You got me.
All right, let's
Um,
do that.
so but what we're gonna juice it up even more. So we're gonna raise our chin and we're gonna look up. It's like we're gonna look up and raise our eyebrows. So I'll give you a little demonstration. We're gonna go. Okay, so we're raising our chin and looking to the roof as we're snorting and hitting those power buttons. You got
Okay.
that?
Yep.
All right. So just breathe out and then breathe in Chin up, chin up, chin up. Open your chest, and then just let it out.
Uh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could just feel everything kind of relaxing and the tension and, the brain opening up and some oxygen going into my cabeza. Yeah.
So you open up this space, a lot of things open up. So I actually call this secondary inhale your breath of possibility. Okay, if something feels impossible, this is my circuit breaker. Okay, so if I'm out in the world waiting in a queue, if I'm getting frustrated, or if there's shit in my head I don't want, I drive my fingers together. This is my circuit breaker. Okay, I make that which is impossible possible by breathing into this space. And if I'm in public, I'll be a bit more discreet. Okay, but just remember, driving your thumb into your fingers and squeezing it really hard becomes your circuit breaker. And often we need a tactile sensation for us to interrupt the stuff that's in our head. Okay, so what we're going to do now is the same thing where we breathe in, open up, but I want you to hold it and I just want you to wriggle and feel like everything's opening up. Wriggle it around, move your shoulders, twist a little bit, and then when it comes time to let it go, let it out with the most delightful sigh, like a got that?
You got it, brother.
All
So
right.
am I
So
raising my head up again?
yeah, so we're doing the same thing where we're raising our head, our chest, our power buttons, and we hold it and then we just wriggle.
Right on. Then
Okay.
we finish with the climax. Here I go. Ready? Are you doing it?
Breathe in, open up, hit your power buttons, open, open, open. And once it's all the way in, hold it and just move your shoulders back and forth. Open up that space. Feel yourself opening up, opening up, opening up, and let it out with a sigh. Nice big sigh.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Bring some of that action. Yeah. All right. So
But
is this
again,
what we do in the morning?
we're only halfway through.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It gets better. This is the thing I find about breath work. There's no bottom to it. It keeps on getting better and better and better. So up here, if I can, hang on, I always take myself off. I always, in Zoom, I always hide my own view because I don't want to be distracted by my own image. So I'm just going to hold this so people can see. So up here, breath of possibility. Down here is your breath of peace. So down here, divide your lungs up into thirds, top, middle, bottom. And down the bottom is the where the air sacs are most vascular. There's the most blood wrapped around them. So what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in up high, hold it, and then wriggle it, and we're going to collapse ourselves down. So like I'm trying to hold it. So we collapse ourselves down and we hold like a balloon in our lower belly.
Okay.
And with that balloon in our lower body, a lower belly, we try and push it out, but our mouth stops it and it comes out with a and try and have that exhale last 20 or 30 seconds. So I'm going to give you a demonstration. So we breathe in, we hold it, we wriggle it around, we collapse it, we let it go from our upper chest, middle, we collapse forward, we hold it in our bellies, squeeze it, and then let it out with a for as long as possible. Okay, so be sure you're in a comfortable chair that supports you or you're laying down because this can really make you drift. Okay, drift into a really, into a, and give yourself time. If it doesn't happen on the first one, we're going to do this 3 times so you'll get a feel for it. Again, this is something new. Be gentle on yourself. You don't have to get it right. There's no way to do this wrong, but we're going to do this we're going to do it 3 times in total.
If you don't see me, I fell off the chair because I passed out. But just keep talking. I'll come back.
Did you just pass out? I missed that. Okay. So,
Okay.
so, so everyone at home, just have your power buttons ready, have your chin ready to breathe in, and then just blow it out, blow it all out, and then start breathing in, Raise your chin, hit your power buttons, raise your chest, feel it coming in. Once it's all the way to the top, hold your breath, wriggle your shoulders, and then let your head relax forward. Let your head relax forward. Collapse it down. Put your hands on your belly. Put your hands on your belly. Feel that air going down to your belly, 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 down low, low, low. Let your head relax. Let your head relax. Let your shoulders relax and let it out with a tsh. Letting it out with a tsh for as long as possible. Let everything just relax. Let the oxygen do the work. Super slow. And we're going to do this 2 more times. And we're going to just feel more and more relaxed and at home with it. This is just us coming home. Okay.
Yep.
So one more time, breathing in. Open, 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 like a flower that's opening. Everything opens up. And once you're at the top, you hold it. And then you just collapse your head forward. Let everything relax forward. Let everything just relax forward. Feel the air going down to your belly. Down low, hands on your belly, down low. Let it out super slow. And as you exhale, feel like you're exhaling all the tension from your body. It's all just being exhaled out. It's all falling out. Notice how when you relax one part of your body, there's a cascade of relaxation that's happening all through your body. Very good. Now, this last one, you'll probably feel a bit more relaxed with it and a bit more open and less forced. So in your own time, we're going to take another deep breath in and open up like a flower. Open, open, open. Everything's open as much as we can. Hold our breath. Just feel relaxation and stretching and opening. And then just let everything fall. Relax your head, relax your shoulders. Put your hands on your belly. Push that air down as low as it can go. As low as it can go. And when everything's ready, let it out super slow, super slow, super slow, super slow. Allow that relaxation to cascade through your body. Feel like it's all falling out of you. Every muscle group is relaxing. Now, I just invite you, Gary, to close your eyes and sit in your chair and allow that chair to take your weight. The chair was built to take your weight. Allow your muscles to be supported by that chair. Allow yourself just to melt into that chair. So often in our tension, we don't allow ourselves to feel held, to feel supported. It's like our own tension is trying to hold us up and support us, but it doesn't work like that. We feel supported, we feel held by simply allowing our weight to be felt. We've just oxygenated our body and mind. Let that oxygen go into every cell, every fiber, and simply feel what it is to be connected back into your body. This is your body. This is your resource.
I'm tingly. I'm, I'm tingly.
Yeah.
That was awesome. So am I supposed to do this every night before bed or when I wake up in the morning or just throughout the
Well,
day?
I always have my little pinch thing ready. So I mentioned before, when people ask how often should you do breath work? Well, when I was on pills, I had pills not just in the medicine cabinet, I had it in the car, in the fruit bowl, in the cupboard, because I was always wanting to get back in control of my body and I did it through an outside means. Now, when I have this, you know, okay, I'm back sovereign again. If there's stuff in my head, if I'm traveling around the place, I've got a new level of normal right now. So if you can establish your peace and power in the morning, as a guided process, when you go through your day, you know that this is normal. Some people, when they wake up, they're quite elevated and they don't know it. And so they travel, and a state of disconnect is quite new to them. And you'll notice the more your body will respond to it. Sometimes breath work can feel like the first time you've run around a block. Oh, geez, this is exhausting. But then the more you do it, you're like, oh, this is actually really good. And I can go a bit further into that. Okay. And that's the key, being super gentle on yourself. So my, takeaway for people is knowing that inside your own body, your peace can become your power. If you can control your breath, you can control everything.
Wow. My brother, this was awesome. Yeah. I mean, your story, your history, your generosity is obviously not bullshit. You're the real deal. You could feel it, your vibe right when we got on the thingy here, the Zoom, whatever. Uh, you know, what you went through, how you came out of it, what you're doing with it by helping others and paying it forward. And the breath work. I mean, that was amazing. I mean, just like a 5 minute thing already make I could feel the tingle and stuff. But also, I mean, I love the generosity of the app. I know that it's going to help people. I know that it's going to do the path that you want, and one day I'll go look back and go, I talked to that dude one time. He's bigger than Elon Musk, but I talked to him one time and he's a big bad mofo now. But Tim, thank you so much, my brother. This was really great. Really grateful for this, and I can't wait to share this with everybody and have everybody get a piece of Tim Thomas, man. It's a real deal.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for being a great host. Thank you for those who are listening. And I really hope that this, meets you where you live and you can, connect to yourself powerfully and flourish in the way that, you've been put here to flourish in.
You got it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. This was Tim Thomas. You're gonna love him, man. And look for that app. The app is Breathwork in Bed. We'll have it all on there, and we can't wait for you guys to hook up. So thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Talk to you soon. All right, that's it. We're done. Yay. I'm gonna hit stop recording in a minute, but I just wanted to say thank you before we go. And that was awesome, man. That was a fast 2 hours and
Oh yeah,
so
well that
much out
that
of
was a fast 2 hours. Well done, Gary.
that. We
Well
got a
done
lot
you.
out of that. So
Yeah, yeah.
enjoy your day today.
Mm.
I'm gonna look for that app. The book, and just can't wait to put this out there and expose everybody what you're doing because it's really awesome.
Well, Gary, if anything comes from this, if you can get your sleep integrity back in order, you know, and it's a handy thing to have when if you wake up at 3 a.m. instead of getting stuck in your thoughts, you've got a button you can hit to breathe a certain way, and just be ready, because it will happen, and you'll go, oh, that's what the guy was talking about at 3 a.m. Your mind is used to running the show, right? And so it'll tell you the breathing is bullshit, it won't work. But trust me when I say you hit that button, you'll think it's bullshit for the first 10 or 15 breaths, and then you're like, oh, that's what the guy was talking about. All right. And that's real because, like I said, we have these sentient stress weeds running the show and we don't even know it, you know. And if we can just uh I want you to I'm excited to see what would flourish in your life when you get your sleep sovereignty back. Because you are not going to age like other people age when you get your sleep impact. So it's like performance is like a pyramid. Top of the pyramid, you're kicking ass, chewing bubble gum, making bank, doing all the stuff you want to do. But the bottom of the pyramid, rest, recovery, healing art forms. It's those healing art forms that are unique to you that if you widen, you are not going to age like other people age. So I can still perform like I did in my 20s, but I've widened the base of it, you know? Last week I was thrown down with my 20-year-old son. And you can bet he's a strong dude. He gave me a blood nose. But the point is, I made a promise to him that I said, when you have a 20-year-old son, I'm going to be throwing down with him, you know? And that's my thing. So I've got to work the bottom of the pyramid because so many people just look at what's going on in the gym or what's going on in the seen part of their life. It's the unseen places, and this is why sleep. It's unspectacular, but it's just it's power when you need it, and it's accumulative. You can have, one night of bad sleep, a week of bad sleep, a year of bad sleep, a night of good sleep, a week of good sleep, a year of good sleep. It's an accumulation effect.
Well, you just showed the triangle, and at the bottom was, the sleep is the foundation for our entire lives. And the statistics will show people who don't sleep well don't live very long or don't live as long as they, chronographically should.
Mm,
I'm a really healthy dude, beat cancer, and I do all the right things, take care of myself. But my Achilles heel is sleep, right? So if I could fix the sleep component to go along with my exercise, my diet, the meditation, the other things that I do to try to heal myself, boy, I'll be 120, no problem. I'll be kicking my grandson's ass. I mean my great grandson's ass, right?
mm.
So, and that's why I think this is so important because, I'm a person living the pain of not getting sleep. I know that my potential could be so much more if I let my body do it, like you said at the very beginning, what it's normally naturally set to do, right? I just got to get there. That's why I need the app.
Well, can we circle back in a week? Because I'm very interested to see how you go. So my request, and you can accept, decline, or counter offer, that for the next 7 days, you go to sleep with it and wake up with it for 7 days. Now, obviously, I'm talking to you, but be present to the fact that there could be tens of thousands of people left and right of you, you know, and the things that work for you, the things that don't, this is the conversation we'll have, because that helps me as well. But my request is for the next week, the next 7 days, that morning and night, you just hit that notification button and see how that impacts the rest of your day.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd
All
love
right.
to. I don't know if that puts us on Christmas Day, but we'll figure it out. We'll flow with it.
Boxing Day, or okay, yeah, it'll either be Boxing Day or the day after. But either way, what a great Christmas present.
I still want to sleep. I don't give a shit what day it is. I still
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to
yeah.
sleep, right? So, all right, my brother, you've been amazing. I really am
All right.
grateful for this, Tim. You're wonderful. And let's circle back. Let's see how it
Yeah.
works,
So
man.
I'm going to put in my diary, touch base with Gary. I've messaged you on Messenger,
Yep.
and I'll also send you my way of making cacao. Okay,
Okay.
because there's cacao out there, but no one understands the alchemy of it. So I've got the hashtag of making the best cacao in Australia. So I'll send you my little recipe on how to do it.
Are you marketing that stuff?
No, 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 it's just something I
Not
do.
yet.
Yeah,
Not
not
yet.
yet, not yet. You could, I'm
But what
sure
if
you.
you
Yeah.
could?
What if you could? That's nice. You got me. You got
All
me.
right, brother.
Big
Thank you
circle.
so
Big
much.
circle.
I will talk to you soon.
All right,
Appreciate it.
no worries.
See ya.
Bye now.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.